Welcome to Getting Defensive Weekend Primer presented by Gridiron Ratings. I'm your host, JJ Wenner, and tonight we take a look at the Week 11 matchups and all the news you need. With me tonight, as always, is Gridiron Ratings Senior IDP Analyst. You can find him on Twitter at the IDP Tipster. Gary Van Dyke, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Hello, fantasy football fans. Week 11. It's kind of a soft week. We only got 2 weeks on bye. Let's run through some of these start sits real quick.
Let's get to it. All right, let's start off with Indianapolis Colts at the Bills. Now, Indy has averaged 136 yards rushing per game. Bills have allowed only 84 yards per game on the ground. Who breaks this game, Gary? Indy's run game or Bills' run defense?
Let's see. I'm not really too interested in the edge rushers for the Colts. That's Buffalo is pretty tough off the edge, so I think Buckner and Autry ought to have a decent game. When it comes to the Bills, man, I'd like to say that they have something to be serviceable, but unless you're in a deeper format, you're not really looking at these guys. They're inconsistent, even when the MSR or the matchup strength's there. They're tough to go on. So unless you're in a deeper league, they do have a positive MSR this week on the interior with Phillips and Oliver, I believe it is. But they have a nice little rotation where most of them only get 40 to 50% of the snaps. So they will be productive. It's just not going to be that high-end play that everybody wants. So you avoid them in standard-sized leagues.
Now, A.J. Klein stepped in last week pretty nicely for Tremaine Edmonds. Are you comfortable starting him again this week?
If I remember right, let's see. Yes, Colts. Yes, if it's actually a pretty decent matchup on the inside, and that's the scenario every time that Edmonds or Milano is out. AJ Klein steps right in there and sees a bunch of snaps. He usually does, he can produce at a nice level too, almost producing more than those guys can in that short span. But for whatever reason, so yeah, I'd go ahead if Edmonds is out. Go ahead and plug Klein in. Suspect that he could get those nice LB2 numbers for you.
Yeah, Edmonds hasn't practiced the past 2 days, so it's looking iffy for him to make this week. Let's go down to Washington versus Carolina. Now, Chase Young is out for the year. Casey Toohill, didn't know that name before, saw a bump in playing time. Are you considering starting Toohill against the Panthers?
Well, I'm actually, we're going to see a bounce back this week. I mentioned last week that I didn't like the Washington's DLs, including Young and such, against Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay just they don't allow anything off the DLs at all. They protect Brady really well. So, unfortunately, Young went down like that. So now we're looking at Toohill and this William Smith, I believe. They're both rookies.
Williams.
Both late round rookies this year. I'm talking 6th round or something, I believe. So in this matchup versus the Panthers allow a lot off the edge and across the complete DL. So I actually picked up Smith. I actually picked up Smith and I plugged him in one where I needed a good flyer. I believe he was like my 3rd or 4th defensive lineman in that lineup. I'm going to swing for the fence with it. I mean, it's almost one of those production by defaults. It's such a good matchup. They would have to be completely hiatus to miss this, to get something. But this again, folks, this is deeper formats and this is brand new. Toohill, this will be the first game he gets to start. And
just for the record, Smith Williams and Toohill are second-year players.
Oh, my bad. Oh, I said wrong year, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. So
still late round picks, but just last year's picks.
Well, you almost wonder too, if you're facing two rookie or two young edge rushers, do you go after them and see what they can do with the run game? So there might be some opportunity here. It's just really risky if you're trying to, reach for something in a standard sized league. You shouldn't reach here. We'll give us some time in some dynasty for the rest of the season, because it doesn't look like Young or I don't think Sweet are coming back. So Young and Sweet have not had, I keep preaching this. I'm a matchup guy when it comes to IDP, and they didn't have a huge amount of favorable matchups at the beginning of the season. And it's kind of unfortunate, because all of a sudden here's one that Young would, or Sweet would have, or Sweat or Sweet, whichever would have really got into, So but we'll see what these guys are going to do.
Now, does Cam Newton change your perspective at all about who to play for Washington?
A little bit, yes.
How? Tell me. Can you explain how?
Well, Cam's a runner, so he's going to revert back to what he used to do. It's what it got him through as a Panther before, and that's run the ball. So I think he's going to pull the trigger pretty quick. So I can imagine he'll have quite a few rush attempts, and that actually bolsters the opportunity for the defensive line of Washington right there. Allen should feast. I think Allen can get a couple tackle for a loss, probably a sack in this game. Payne should be okay too. But if you're not passing the ball, I don't know. You're more of an offensive guy probably than I am when we talk about it. But in the past, Cam Newton's not a passer. He
has a decent arm. He's just not a classic passer. You're going to see CMC peppered a lot with targets, I think, tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, on Sunday. But if I'm a Robbie Anderson manager, I'm not too happy about Cam Newton coming to town.
Yeah, well, right.
But if I'm a Robbie Anderson manager, I'm not happy at all. So,
right. I actually had him at the start of the season on a couple of rosters. It didn't take long.
No, not a good year for him. No. Quick question for you though. On the other side, Brian Burns had a great start. Then he did nothing for a few weeks, and he bounced back with 3 sacks in week 7 through 9 before Mac Jones decided to be a Rodney Harrison disciple and twist that ankle. Do you think he does anything this week?
I like the matchup. Yes, I do. I think he's a must start here. It's pretty favorable against Washington. So him and Riddick, I could see Riddick getting back in there too. The rest of them, now Derek Brown, I'm actually the one thing that Washington has shored up this year is the inside of the offensive line. So plus they just don't run the ball much. I think that Gibson actually hit his ceiling and attempts last week. So when it really boils down to it, I like Derek Brown, but if even in a standard league, if I've been using him at a defensive tackle and definitely defensive line, I'm considering sitting them and looking for somebody. And I got a nice little flyer coming up for somebody here. So if you're looking for somebody, pay attention, folks. We're going to let you know here shortly.
Oh, I'm always looking for something. Yeah. All right, let's go to Chicago, my old hometown. The Ravens are visiting the Bears. Now, the Bears and Ravens rank 1 and 2 for most points allowed to DN. So who are we firing up in this game? Every defensive end?
Between who? Sorry.
Ravens and Bears. Baltimore, Chicago.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, folks. I phased out for a second. But yeah, both teams are allowing a huge amount of production off the edge. So fire up Mac for sure. He's going to be busy chasing around Lamar Jackson, and I believe he can get him a sack or so. I know he's not been on fire this year. He's kind of died off. I think he's also been injured.
He's been injured a lot.
Hicks actually should be a nice pickup too this week. Of course, I wouldn't sit somebody in a standard league to put him in there if you had a DT1 already. But he's a good option. And then on the other side of the ball, Baltimore, I wouldn't mess with any of the interior defensive line. I think they get
who?
They get running back this week. Montgomery
Montgomery is playing this week.
Is he? So they might
Yeah.
actually run the ball, even a little bit more, but I wouldn't mess with any of the Baltimore interior defensive linemen. I like the rookie and Houston. Bowser might be serviceable. It's that good of a matchup, but that would be in a deeper league. Those are the edge rushers. The rookie is Aga, I think.
Odafe, Owa.
Yep.
Chuck Clark, man. I love Chuck Clark, because he has the perfect name for a safety. But he's not been performing well as far as IDP goes this year.
Yes.
Is he a must? He's not a must start. Is he a must roster at this point, except in like deep leagues?
Why? I think there are a lot better options out there at this point in time. I'm not really sure. It seems to correlate his production going down even more with Bynes taking over the middle inside linebacker spot over Patrick. He's calling the plays. I'm not sure. Chuck's just not in the fold right now. And in this particular matchup, because of the way the numbers crunch, I'm sitting him. I'm sitting him, and I believe realistically, because there's only going to be so much IDP meat on the bone that Chicago's offering. They're not that good. So there is such a rotation in the secondary. Of course, you probably have to start Humphreys if you're there. I'm not really excited about starting anybody in this secondary, to tell you the truth. But, it's one of those matchups. Bynes and Patrick should be fine. The edge rushers should be fine for Baltimore. I think that's where you're going to see most of the production go to this week.
Well, let's follow the Lions and visit the Browns this week. Now, just asking Gary, do you consider a tie as breaking a losing streak? I'm just asking for a friend. That does technically.
You gotta give them an A for effort, but I don't know, man. I'm more upset about the Browns. So,
the Browns are not looking good, my friend. Now, the Lions and the Browns are giving up the first and second most points to linebackers. So your boy Alex Anzalone and Anthony Walker are both must starts, right?
Yes, okay. Definitely. When Anzalone did exactly what I said last week when I suggested him as a pickup in deeper leagues, if you guys, because we had 4 teams on bye, and I think I quoted a 8 combined tackle ceiling. He hit 9, so he actually outperformed, at least in my leagues, Wagner. Bynes. Wait a minute. There was a few. Warner. I think he ended up being like the 16th most productive inside linebacker. So, but that's the same thing, same scenario this week. The Browns are allowing so much by running the ball all the damn time. Alex would have to actually just lay down and let him run by him without having the opportunity to get some combined tackles. So again, he's not going to get those flashy plays, those. And Walker, yes, definitely. The guy's on a roll. We're keeping an eye on JOK. I'm expecting his snap counts to go up. He was
at what, a little bit over 30% this past week.
Right. So he just got back off IR. We always mention don't go chasing the rainbow after the IR stint, because most guys got to be worked back in.
All right. So you think you'll see a bump up in that this week?
But I'm not going to play him, not with just 2 weeks on bye.
Not chasing it.
Right. We're going to keep an eye on it, so the next week that hopefully, if he can hit that 70, 80 mark, then we can say, hey, let's see, there's only 2 weeks on bye next week, 2 teams on bye next week. So we'll see where we're at, but we definitely want to see a bump again. He might shoot clear back up to 90. I think he hit that right before he got injured.
I believe he was right around 90 before he got hurt.
Well,
let's go down to Jacksonville. It's the 49ers at the Jags. Now, besides Bosa and Warner, are there any must starts for the Niners right now?
Nah. Let's see here. I'm locating them on mine. There they are. I'm avoiding all the DLs on the Niners if they're not named Bosa, and I'm not expecting him to like have his best game ever. Believe it or not, for whatever reason, Jags is one of those teams like Tampa Bay that just do not allow a lot of points to the defensive linemen. I guess that's kind of a weird thing. I'm not really sure. But that's on paper. It's been like that all year too. It's consistently. So you can't sit Boza. I mean, it'd be impossible. He's probably going to still get us a sack, but I don't think that he'll come near his ceiling. He'll probably just be around his floor production.
Which is still better than most players.
Right. Exactly. Right. I'm avoiding the Jags deals altogether. There's nothing to see there. Even Josh Allen, I'm not playing him unless
he's been playing well, Gary.
Yeah. 49ers are tough, though. 49ers are tough. I know I called that against Aaron Donald last week. So, and he ended up producing. He ended up with 2. But did we expect the 49ers to come out and play like they did last week? They kind of broke scheme by running the ball so much. So, that it opened it up instead of the passing game, in my opinion. So, I'd rather have been. It's not like Aaron Donald lit it up either. He didn't get a sack. I think he had a tackle for a loss, though. But, Josh Allen is not Aaron Donald. And, I believe they shut down Floyd and the rest of the defensive line for the Rams, other than Arnold's production. So I'm not risking it with Josh Allen if I have a viable replacement.
And now Miles Jack has been missing practices every week, yet he plays 100% of the snaps every weekend. Any concern? Or if Jack is healthy, he's a must start every week, right?
Yeah, he's like one of those cars, as long as you keep changing the tires, it just runs and runs and runs. So until you can't put new tires on there because he's hurt again, you might as well just run with it. And in this matchup, I do believe it was a solid to strong matchup for him and Wilson on the inside.
Very good. All right. The Packers are visiting the Vikings this weekend. Now, Patrick Peterson and Harrison Smith could both return to the defense this weekend. Are you starting either of them?
Yes. Yeah, I'm starting Harrison. I'm starting both safeties for both teams, actually, if I remember right. Especially I'm looking forward to seeing Savage. I think Savage has an opportunity here to kind of have a really good week. He's starting a stretch of good matchups. He's one of the guys that stood out when I did my rest of the season rankings on the safeties. So I think this will be the start of a decent little run here for the rest of the season, where he'll be more viable or more valuable to IDP players, especially in deeper leagues. But Harrison's got to be, he's been tearing it up. You guys can put that rookie back on the bench, stash him for a dynasty stash, because guys, they might not, after how that rookie performed and the shape that the Vikings are in, and considering Harrison Smith's age, he may not be re-signed or picked up next year, whatever it is. I'm seeing things Go ahead.
That was my question. I mean, Cam Bynum played so well in back-to-back weeks. Is he just going to the bench like there's nothing for him?
Oh, yeah. I don't see them disrespecting Smith. How do you so was Smith. Smith was tearing it up beforehand too.
Yeah.
So, he's having a really good year. Again, probably due to some matchups, but either way, it's a good matchup for all the safeties on both these squads this week.
Now, the Vikings give up a lot of points to corners. So I know Tripp is usually my go-to for cornerback starts, but am I starting either of the Packers?
Don't expect me to name them, but yeah, sure. I mean, you might as well, because they're up that high. Don't ask me. Alexander, is he healthy?
Yeah, I tell you what, I looked them up. I didn't know them for the most part. Their corners are Eric Stokes, Chandon Sullivan, and Rasul Douglas are getting a lot of snaps. Kevin King's in there too. I knew Kevin King.
There you go, folks. Yeah, it's a good matchup. Might want to double check, make sure who's getting the the better snaps.
Sullivan actually has been getting close to 100% every week. So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, the numbers show that he should get some points.
Right. So in that matchup for the corners, that's just I hate to say this, it might be giving away a little bit of a secret, but when it comes to like how come I like Savage is because they're allowing the points to the safeties, but they're also allowing it to the corners. That means they're getting the ball down the field, in which Savage is the deep guy. So yeah, just a little thing there. So I really do like Savage a lot, but yeah, roll those cornerbacks out for Minnesota or Green Bay.
Green Bay. All right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Now, I hate talking about the Jets anymore. Miami is visiting New York with, I can't believe I'm saying it, Joe Flacco at quarterback. Are we firing up all the pass rushers for Miami? I mean, Flacco can't move, can he? He's 48 years old.
Yeah. If I remember right, yeah, we're firing up everybody on the Miami defensive line, especially Wilkins. I think Ogba, or I want to call them all Ogba. What's the guy?
Emmanuel Ogba, right? Isn't he there?
Okay. Even
Andrew Van Ginkel.
Yeah, actually, he's even came on lately. So this is one of those matchups that you can't pass up there. Again, would I go replacing them with certain quality guys in standard leagues? Probably not. But in deeper leagues, you're starting 3 or 4. Oh, these are probably as good as number 2 plays, to tell you the truth. Picking them up and plugging them in there. So most guys, and I'm going to be honest, those names can be on the waiver wire right now in some of these deeper leagues too. I've seen them there. I bet, especially Andrew, whatever his name was, Van Ginkel. Not
Van Winkle.
There we go.
That's a good whiskey.
Right.
Good whiskey or a sleepy gentleman.
Right.
So the Jets defense has been getting worse every week. I'm not going to go into like a counseling session here where I'm trying to understand why they're getting worse, but can I expect anything from a Jets defensive player outside of Mosley and Michael Carter II?
It's kind of a, don't expect anything. I hate to say it because Quentin Williams, your guys' defensive tackle, he's a beast, but this is not a favorable matchup for him. So I think he'll struggle to hit his floor. In the rest of the defensive line, I'd avoid them altogether in this contest. But I think I want to talk about Jared Davis, but I'm so upset about that. So you just gotta, I've already dropped him off. I said on this past week, it was the last week, and his production is not matching the snap counts. I mean, he's getting tons of play and producing very little. So, and then you can't really trust the Quincy Williams. He's getting the other linebacker but even if he's productive, he's only getting like 40 to 50% of the snaps because he's playing with Jared. And how can you trust that? So it's especially in a week like this, there's no reason to reach there. I think Mosley and your secondary should have a good week. If I remember right, I believe Miami is pretty darn good at allowing points to the corners. Decent with the safety. So, but the way the defensive line measures up against Miami, I got a feeling Mosley and secondary should be good to go this week for the Jets.
All right. New Orleans is going to Philly. Now, Davion Taylor had another solid week, but was only at 70% of the snaps. Now, I've heard that 70 is the new 90 for linebackers. So can I start Taylor? I mean, I already started him last week, but can I start him again?
Yeah. Let me look at this one real quick to double check. I want to make sure that I don't feed anybody full of shit.
Yeah, you keep looking. I'm going to go off a little bit and tell you about how great Marcus Davenport has been.
Yes.
3 sacks in the past 2 weeks. He's come back, right? He was on IR for a while. And he's just been gangbuster since he fired up. I am so excited to have Marcus Davenport back on my squad. Oh, I'm excited.
What is this, like the 3rd or the 4th week that?
This is his third good week in a row.
Okay.
And he's had back-to-back great weeks.
And folks, I always say it, especially with the guys that I had trust issues with, that it takes 3 weeks. So he made my waiver wire this week. So it's almost a week early, but the matchup is prime for this. Philadelphia, they, I've said it a million times, they like to gift it to the edge rushers. So they should be a good play. Him and Jordan should be a good play. I'm not really excited about the interior defensive line for the Saints. Tuttle, he's actually become serviceable in deeper leagues, but I wouldn't play him this year this game. And then I'm not going to be able to pronounce the other dude's name, but he just came back and he's been producing pretty well. I think that I'm terrible, folks. I'm terrible at names.
Which team are you talking about, buddy? I'll help you out.
Saints defensive tackle.
Onyemata.
Yes. Yeah. So he's a beast, folks. He's came back pretty
fantastic.
Strong. Yeah. So even if he might have got off whatever it was, I guess, suspended for, that was enhancing his performance.
He just found a cleaner version of it.
Right. He seems to be doing well, but it's not a strong, very strong matchup on paper. So I wouldn't expect him to go and hit his ceiling this week. Bet on his floor. I wouldn't drop him though. You don't want to drop this guy. I'd soon
especially
play
in
him.
TT required leagues. I like David Onyemata a lot. Right. I actually kept him on my roster in some leagues, even though he was suspended.
Yeah.
So I could have put him on IR.
Yeah. But I was sitting there drafting him. I remember we were doing with Johnny the Greek, whatever, other guest host, whatever. He had a league, and it was a best ball defense, and I literally. He was it was all defense. He was actually my 8th or 9th pick. I actually kind of reached for him, especially, well, either way, 2 hours later, dude was suspended. I got the news. So we had a nice little chat. Everybody in there was IDP kind of the writers and such. And it's like, oh, well, that went to shit. An 8th round pick, right? Off the top redraft. Anyways. What else was we going with?
But what's the difference between him missing the first 6 games and now Chase Young missing the last 6 games? Right. I mean, it happens, right? I'd rather have Onyemata for the tail end of the stretch than Chase Young for the beginning when he wasn't performing.
Right. And I'm going to say it again. I feel bad for Chase Young and Sweet, but man, it's remarkable on how poorly both of them did this year. But if we look back on it, and I look back on it all the time, and those guys, they did not have but 1 or 2 favorable matchups the whole entire year. The rest of the time they were pretty tough. So unfortunately, though, that's when we would like to see Chase Young overachieve. And most really good studs overachieve more than they underachieve when it comes to matching the matchup strength, So It's been a weird year, to say the least. I think if I was a young owner, I'd be nervous. I might, I wasn't as high as, even though he's a Buckeye, I wasn't as high on him as everybody else was coming in. I just kind of seen him taking plays off and such during Ohio State games, but I'm not a college film guy either. So, but either way, if I could get something shiny for Young in this offseason, I would.
Now, see, I was coming from the opposite direction, and I hate the term buy low because I don't think there's any such thing as a buy low. Mm-hmm. But I might be floating some offers for him based upon what you said about how his matchups just weren't great at the beginning of this year. No. People might be down on him because they started him weekend.
Well, in that aspect, without him overachieving and really doing really well in matchups that he weren't favorable for him, that's a sign to me that next year he's only going to be as good as his matchup strength or as good as the schedule allows him to be. That's the opposite, it says to me. So if I can get back some of mine, I'm going to get it back. Of course, I have no trouble whatsoever of finding DL plays. So I'm like I said, I'd have to sell them for something I like and shiny, but I would put them on the block. See what it is. So just send me some offers.
I'll send you a few.
Yeah.
All right. That was New Orleans, Philadelphia. Houston is going down to Tennessee.
I'm sorry, I never answered the Taylor question. Hey, folks.
Oh, you
Taylor,
didn't?
yes. So Taylor and Edwards are both they've been doing pretty good. Taylor really had a good game, I believe, last week with that higher percentage. Here's the thing: this week, folks, yeah, if you're in deeper leagues, are probably good plays. Standard leagues, though, they don't have a really good matchup this week against the Saints. Saints just aren't allowing that much. Now, Taylor might surprise because he is a weak side inside linebacker, kind of plays that coverage guy. So we might find him on Carmella or whatever, the tight ends. But either way, standard side leagues, no reason to start him. If you need that fourth linebacker, yeah, they're a solid option.
I don't do anything standard, so I think
I
Davion.
like Taylor. I think he's coming up.
Yeah, especially considering how little experience he has on the field. Like, I'm looking forward to see what comes of him.
Yeah.
Now let's go to Tennessee.
All right.
Houston is going down. Now, both teams, Houston, Tennessee, are both in the top 10 of sacks allowed. So, are our edges all go?
Yeah. All edges. I'm sorry, just looking over my.
It's okay.
With the Titans, I'm going. The interior defensive lineman. I'm worried about the edge rushers. Let's see.
For Tennessee, you're worried about the edge rushers?
Other than I'm getting myself, but I'm sorry, folks. My notes seem to be solid edge. Okay, so we got Landry. You never set Landry as an edge rusher for the Titans. I mean, he's been one of the top 5 edge rushers this year, so we're definitely not sitting him. But I don't think this is his best matchup. Now he has overachieved, so you got to play him. So there's definitely no problem there. The interior defensive line,
Jeffrey Simmons, are we firing him up?
Yeah, for the Titans is good to go. You have Altree and Simmons. Right. I think Altree's also solid. He's actually, when the MSR is there, it's a good matchup for him, and he does well. When it comes to Texans, you got to start Greenard, and this is a really good matchup for him. Now, he's not necessarily an edge rusher. He's the interior defensive end. So he's an interior defensive lineman, but he's right there. It's going to be a good matchup. You can't set him. Who I am setting is the Texans edge rushers or outside linebacker Jenkins, and I don't even know who the other guy is. It's all the Greenard show. I like Jacob Market. Apologies. I like Jacob Martin. He has really came up here lately. Next inside to Greenard, and in a deeper format, because this matchup is that good, I think that he could be a serviceable play.
Yeah, and with sorry about that. Zach Cunningham actually got a little bit more play with Kirksey out, so It was nice to see him back up to 100%.
Yeah, don't forget about those two. I mean, I don't know if you'll be reaching for them or not, but you got Grugier Hill and Cunningham. Kirksey's still out, so I don't think he'll be back till maybe next week, and then we can probably just put Cunningham back on our benches again or waiver wire, because he went there really quick. Well, no, he did not go there quickly until like week 5. 5 or 6 people finally started swallowing that pill. Let's drop him.
I mean, he had played so badly, but at least he put up points in IDP in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that they figured that out and they went with Kirksey instead. Anybody else on either team you are starting?
I'm actually making a point to sit Reed. Reed, and I believe I'm making a point to sit both the safeties for Texans.
Reed and Murray.
Yeah. I'm not going there this week. There's not a lot of production allowed by the Titans. Don't ask me how. I'm just telling you what the numbers crunch as. When it comes to the Titans too, that Odom, Odom stood up last week. Remember, we was having trust issues with him, and I talked to my therapist about it, man, and he told me you stick to your guns, Gary, because
Wait, you see a male therapist? Don't go to a male therapist. We're terrible at giving therapy.
That's funny, but either way, I don't think on paper that I'm overhyped for either safety group in this contest. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to look elsewhere.
All right. Well, let's move to the afternoon games. Cincinnati is visiting the Raiders. Now, you mentioned that you're avoiding the Raiders safeties. Why? Talk to me.
I'm actually going to avoid the rookie free safety. I can't quite.
Who's that? Morig?
Yeah. When it comes to Abrams, he's kind of almost become a must play. So it's not the best matchup on paper, but he'll hit his average, I would say, with no problem. Let's see. Target. I've lost it. Not the corners. Yeah, I'm not starting the corners either for the Raiders. No, I want to start the corners for the Raiders. I apologize. Cincinnati allows a lot there. So I just don't trust that free safety, though. He's not done anything at this point to even suggest that we should go there. The linebackers should be standard. I'm not starting the defensive line for the Raiders. Maybe Hankins. Don't give me Crosby. Don't give me the other defensive edge or defensive end guy because the Bengals they got a pretty decent line this year. And really the only production they give is when they run Mixon. So that's why I'm suggesting possibly Hankins. But in a deeper format, folks, and whatever you do, don't scare yourself. Don't look at his weekly average. But he might actually have his best game of the year. Who knows? But like I said, this is a very deep play. Very deep play. The kid that I really wanted to talk about earlier, speaking of defensive tackles, is a kid that's playing right now, Barmore. For
New England.
Yeah, I'm on that bandwagon. I've actually picked him up in quite a few leagues. I got him plugged in for this game here because of the way that it come up on paper. But I do believe he hit like 80%, maybe 70, 80% of the snaps last week for the Patriots last week. So that's a lot for a defensive lineman. That's a huge amount for a rookie defensive lineman. And he's producing. He's out there enough. He's getting me some, he's getting some tackles. Again, I put him in these lineups that I have, folks, where I need to start 4 DL, and it's a 16-team league. So that's pretty deep. But keep an eye on this kid. I'm not sure what he's doing tonight, but I don't have the game on while we're doing this. But
Nothing.
All right.
He hasn't put up anything yet. Kyle Van Noy has 2 sacks, though.
Does he?
It's 10-0 New England right now.
Yep. Juden doing any good?
Juden, 2 total sack. 2 total tackles.
Oh.
Nothing too exciting. Kyle Van Noy has 4 tackles, 2 sacks. Kyle Duggar has 5 solo tackles and 1 pass defensed.
Huh. That's 2 weeks in a row after Van Noy's pretty well laid eggs this whole year. So Juden should still, it's not even halftime yet, right?
It is not halftime yet.
No. It's kind of the way the last 2 weeks have gone. I'm wondering if, and what we've seen with the 49ers, are teams changing their game scripts a little bit the second half of the season, like they were doing they tended to do things, pass so much or do whatever up to this point, and then all of a sudden they're kind of switching things up. Is that happening?
I don't have any stats to say yes or no. I think you're going to see more teams doing that. Only, I kind of think of it as the Sean McVay effect.
Right.
When he ran through the regular season doing the same offense, got to the Super Bowl, tried the exact same thing and got crushed. Right. I think teams are trying to change it up now, right?
Right. Right.
just try not to be so one-dimensional
Yeah.
so that you're not projecting exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's going to affect what's happening with the IDP folks. It's all based off of what they decide to do. So, but we're going to try to stay on top of it for you folks at Gridiron Ratings. Hey, we got a half off special for the rest of the season on IDP premium content. The waiver wire article, which is 20 some deep, it's still it's open to everybody this week. So you can look on that thing if you haven't found your waiver wire pickups or you want some better options, because I only put them on there if they are good options. So and at the same time, the free safety and strong safety charts are open to everybody. It's just part of our promotion for this week. Go check out our login page while you're there if you would. To get back to the Bengals and the Raiders matchup, I was also going to mention I actually am sitting Hubbard. I'm sitting Hendricks too. The Raiders, believe it or not, do not allow nothing off the edge. Nothing impressive. And I'm not saying these guys are completely going to bomb, but I do not like this matchup for either one of them. So I've actually gotten a couple players that we've actually covered, and I'm sitting them where I have them, and I'm plugging in some better matchups. I do like the interior defensive linemen. Because they do, they run the ball. Raiders do run the ball occasionally. So Ognojobi, yeah,
Larry Ogunjobi.
Yeah, I like him. He's become really solid for him, and this is a decent interior defensive lineman matchup versus the Raiders. So like I said, I'm avoiding all the Raiders if at all possible defensive line. I do believe that both of these units. Other than the free safety for the Raiders, when you're talking about the linebacker in the secondary, everybody should be good to go this week for these squads.
Now, let's go to the Cowboys are visiting the Chiefs. Now, for the Chiefs, Tyrann Mathieu, L'Jarius Sneed are must starts for me at least. I love L'Jarius Sneed. But is anyone else on that defense looking at somebody we have to start against the Cowboys?
No, I after what they've done, the only time you want to start a linebacker for the Chiefs anymore is if somebody is out, because we just seen it like last week. They turned around and Hicks is back. Bolton went down to like 40% of the snaps. Everybody got like 50% of the snaps out of all their 3 or 4 linebackers that keep rotating. Folks, that's that's poor consistency. So it's really tough to depend on anybody. So the only time you can go there now is if Hicks is out or Bolton is out or something like that. Then you can go run and get them for a game or two until somebody gets back. Other than that, I'm not messing with the defensive line of the Chiefs at all. Not up against Dallas. They're doing pretty good. Any production that comes off of there is usually because Zeke is running the ball. So, but yeah, it's not that good on paper at all. Those guys have not really been doing much. I mean, who's Frank Clark? We've lost. Jaron Reed is not doing anything. He started to have a couple good games. Jones has not really been impressive either, in my opinion. And this is a tough matchup. So, and definitely, hey, folks, I know Cowboy fans or IDP fans might want to see Armstrong do something. For Dallas, don't do that. Not this week. Not against the Chiefs. They're one of the better offensive lines in the NFL, and it is just not a good time to go trying to see if he can overachieve against a tough matchup. So
now we did see Micah Parsons kick down a little bit to defensive line. I've been very impressed with Micah Parsons this year and just his flexibility and what he can do in multiple positions. Is there anybody else though on the Dallas side? I mean, Jayon Kearse has been playing really well.
I would think everybody in the secondary for Dallas should be fine. This is Chiefs. This is the pass show there's a lot of balls out there in that secondary all the time. So I think everybody that you would
Heyo.
normally do, for Dallas in that secondary curse and stuff. Now, the one guy I want to put back on people's radars, and I'm not saying go pick him up because he's been a disappointment up to this point, is Devin Wilson. Donovan Wilson. He was lighting it up last year, but now curses.
Oh, they call him Mellow Yellow.
Yeah, and they changed up this defense and curse with bringing in the former Atlanta head coach Quinn. Always get him and Bradley mixed up, but either way,
basically the same person.
Right, gotcha. So they bring Curse in. He's playing the Neal role in this situation like they used to in Atlanta. Of course, Neal is playing weak side inside linebacker. It's pointless to use him or Van Der Esch. But when it comes to it, I mean, you got to have Parsons in there for sure and the rest of them. But I want everybody to start watching Wilson because all of a sudden last week, after being on IR I'm not sure about IR, but being hurt and not playing much up to this point, he jumped huge in snaps this past week. He didn't produce, but he jumped. So again, the curse plays the more Neal role of the old Atlanta Falcons defense, and he's probably our main target. But keep Wilson on the short stick here. I've actually picked him up in a couple of deeper leagues just to stash him, just see if this snap counts turn into anything. So,
and for you cornerback acquired leagues, I love Anthony Brown this year. Anthony Brown has been consistently scoring for me. I didn't know anything about him coming into the season because I don't care about cornerbacks before the season.
Yeah.
It's only once the season starts that we look at them. So we're not supposed to say that.
Yeah.
Draft
usually they're
early,
streamable,
people.
But when you get a hold of a guy like Brown,
you hang on.
Yep.
You hang on. All right. Let's go to Arizona versus Seattle. Now, I know the must starts. We're talking about Wagner, Adams, right? Hicks and Simmons. Who else are we willing to take a shot on in this matchup, Gary?
On paper, this is really good for Chandler Jones, which is kind of not having the best season. And then all of a sudden, Marcus Golden's just appeared on people. And I think they got confused on what happened to him because he lit it up while Chandler Jones was hurt. Key thing, Chandler Jones was hurt. As soon as he came back in, he took over the weak side. Marcus Golden was transferred back over to rushing from the strong side most of the time. They might split these up, folks. There's all kinds. Anybody could correct me, but in my mind, this is how I explain myself. But what's worse is Marcus Golden has dropped down to like 50% of the snaps for the last 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm not sure what that's about. I don't know if they're rotating Kennard in there. Maybe Kennard's back healthy or something. And but either way, that's taking away a lot of opportunities for Marcus Golden if you're wondering where he's at. So you might want to think about sitting him, even though this is a really favorable matchup. Chandler Jones, you got to look at him like his ceiling right now would be a solid performance. Get us a sack, tackle for a loss, and a couple of tackles, and we'll be happy. I do like Zach Allen, the interior defensive lineman that stepped in for J.J. Watt. Now he's playing next to Chandler Jones, or he'll have Marcus Golden on the outside of him if they're switching it up. But I like him. They don't allow a lot of points on the interior defensive line, but he kind of plays in position in that scheme that he should get some edge work too, which is very productive. So I like him in a deeper format. I think he's a solid start.
What about on the other side of the ball? Seattle.
On paper, it's good. It is actually pretty decent. Not the interior defensive lineman for Seattle, but when it comes to the edge rushers, and you got that young Taylor out there, they just keep only. He's probably the best pass rusher defensive lineman that they have. Amongst Dunlap and Manawalu or whatever his name is, and he should. I don't understand why they only give him like 40% of the snaps each game. If we could just see this kid, so I'm going to advise him as a start in this situation. But for a deeper format, folks, don't be putting him in a standard league. I like Green this matchup just as well. He had a great matchup on paper last week. I plugged him into a few of my deeper formats, and he paid off. I believe he had a couple of tackles and a sack. He actually plays like the strong side linebacker position, in that he's marked as an edge rusher or DLs in some sites that, you have designated DLs. Technically, he's playing inside linebacker position, but whatever, it works. So I do like Green a little bit this week, and he still only gets around 55% of the snaps each week, with Wagner and Brooks hogging it all. The one thing that I'm afraid of for Seattle this week is that the production, the Cards are efficient. All right. They get it done. So I'm wondering exactly how much IDP production in total, because Cardinals just don't allow, other than what we've mentioned about like the defensive line, I believe is their best statistic of allowing points or allowing something off for IDP. The rest of it is all pretty well bottom third. So there's not usually a lot of IDP production out there because they are efficient. So who gets it amongst Wagner, Brooks, Jamal Adams? You can't count out Diggs because he's actually had a good season. And then you got those multiple where they run like 5 defensive backs all the time besides safeties, it seems like. So that's a lot of mouths to feed. I think that there might be one of these, maybe 2 that we really want. The trick would be picking between Brooks, Wagner, and Adams. It's hard not to put Diggs in there in that whole situation. So I'm not expecting like a bunch of high-end production out of this Seattle defense as a group.
Now, going to Pittsburgh is visiting L.A., the Chargers. Bosa's out for the week. I'm assuming we start T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward. Anyone else worth looking at in this matchup?
Well, I'm really nervous for Chargers. Chargers are another one of those. They've got an offensive line. They're protecting Herbert. So I'm actually in leagues. If I've got other options, I'm willing to sit Hayward. Watt, I know that would sound crazy to sit Watt. So I don't think I will be, because he's just a beast. But I'm really tempted to sit Hayward in any leagues. I'm just not really thrilled about this matchup for that Pittsburgh defensive line. And Highsmith, I don't trust him. I like what Highsmith's been doing, but not in this matchup. I'm not reaching there unless I really have to dig deep.
Anybody on the Chargers side?
No, not really. Not really. Tillery and Levon are living.
Tillery's out this week.
Is he? Yeah,
I think he went COVID. On. Yeah, him and Bosa both went on COVID.
Those interior defensive linemen for the Chargers could probably be serviceable in deeper leagues if he was reaching, but I don't think we have to go there this week.
All right, let's finish off Monday night. The Giants versus Tampa. Will the Giants still have the antidote to Tom Brady? But I'll be honest, I'm all out of intros, so who should I start in this matchup?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned about Tampa Bay. I'm real nervous about Leonard Williams. I mean, he's a beast, but this is probably one of those matchups that even in a standard size league, if I got another play that I could play with a little bit better matchup, I probably would do it over him. They could be like a DL2 almost. I just don't like this matchup. It's Tampa Bay. But either way, when it comes to starts, I mean, it's kind of like what we were just talking about Arizona. Tampa Bay is pretty efficient with the ball. So you got to go ahead and start linebacker Carter for the Giants. Xavier McKinney's on fire and Logan Ryan. The rest of them, I wouldn't worry about it, because usually if Tom Brady's passing the ball against the defenses of this level, he's passing for touchdowns. So it doesn't mean there's any tackles there. So you can figure Logan Ryan's going to have some cleanup work. And Xavier McKinney, he's been playing strong.
He has.
So you got to have him in there. On the Tampa Bay side of the ball, let's see. I think I summed that up pretty easily saying it this way: start everybody but the free safety Jordan Whitehead in the Bucks corners. It just plays out on paper like that. Everybody else should be good to go. The Giants don't allow a huge amount off the edge, believe it or not, with that offensive line they have. But we are talking Barrett and JPP, so they should be just fine. You know, their floor is a lot of players' ceilings, so they should be cool and ready to go.
Well, that's it. So it's time for any final thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find the OG of IDP at the IDP Tipster on Twitter and subscribe to Gridiron Ratings for all of his IDP analysis. Gary, any final thoughts?
Hey, it's week 11. We've talked about this for weeks. You got to prepare ahead, you know. So we got 13 and 14 coming. Weeks 13 and 14 coming up with 4 buys in each week. Think ahead. When you're picking up a player off a waiver wire the next couple of days, see what their schedule looks like if you can. I have some rest of the season rankings. Check us out on Gridiron Ratings. We'd love for you to join the family.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check some of those rest of the season rankings out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm at JJ Wenner on Twitter. Thank you to Gary for joining me tonight. As always, thank you to everybody for tuning in. You can catch up on all of our old episodes on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you podcasts can be found. But make sure you turn into the IDP First Take on Tuesdays with Craig Reith and the crew. And remember, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Good night.
Good night.